present you Samuel Rantaeskola, Principal Program Manager from Microsoft Sweden, with the speech on Games Can Craft the Future. Samuel, welcome.
Thank you. Yes, a big title. But I hope I can add shed some light on what I mean with this. This is me. I studied in Sweden, Uppsala University. Worked at Starbreeze, did some poker, Handsoft, Simplygon, and now Microsoft. I've worked on more games than these, but these were the only ones that found their way to a shelf. This is me. It's the best picture I found of me. This is a couple of years before I started in the games industry. I was in college. The perception of the games industry is that it was, well, still is, outside of games. It's kids in basement drinking insane amount of cola, Jolt Cola back in the days, now probably Coca-Cola. And that's true, because I started in the games industry in 2000. Our first salary negotiation was not about money. It was that we wanted a hotline to Coca-Cola. And whenever we ran out, we just wanted them to come and ship cola to us. We didn't have a fridge or anything like that, so we were just piling Coke cans along a wall. And I can tell you that the 15 can of Coke at the end of a day was not that good. Today, I don't drink Coca-Cola at all. But the games industry has been around a lot longer than me. I'm saying, like, let's call it around 30 years. There's been games before that, but then it was mainly like one-man shows here or there. But in these 30 years, the games industry has done a lot of awesome stuff. Loads. Like, for such a young industry, they have affected the world in many, many ways. And a lot of things that we have around us can be attributed to game developers. And that's what I'm going to be talking about. But I do have a kick in the balls as well. The games industry, together with YouTube, I would say, are the #1 reasons or cause of the slackification of our kids. Kids are watching YouTube, playing games. They're not creating stuff. And we as game developers have become masters of turning time into money. We're wringing that out. And I dare to say that a lot of that is actually coming from our kids. So we're basically feeding off the next generation. Now, this is a kick in the balls, because I want to give you food for thought and see what can we do with all the tools and amazing knowledge we have. Because right now, we are creating consumers. We're not creating creators. This is the first game I ever played, I think. There might be some other game. It's around 1984, called Decathlon. Man, I had fun with this. Super difficult. You were hammering on the keyboard. Had to change keyboard every now and then. When this game came out, 87, I think, Prince of Persia, that one I played, it looked so good. And it was so much fun. And it was done by one guy, did all the animations, all the coding, everything by himself. Awesome game. This is the first game I ever worked on or that got shipped. It's called Enclave. This is 2002. This is the last game, or the most previous game I was part of, Syndicate, 2012. So in 10 years, there's quite a leap in how much detail you can have. And today, we're here. Like, you can have insane amounts of information pushed onto the screen. So the question is, how did I get to this topic? Well, Simplygon Studios, which is part of Microsoft, got acquired now in January. I was working as a product expert at that time, so helping game customers using our technology. But Microsoft did not want us for the games. They still want us to work with games, but they want us to join their initiative, which is called 3D for Everyone. 3D for Everyone is basically Paint 3D, Remix, this democratization of 3D, giving tools to basically anyone to be able to create 3D. Now, most people don't have a clue about optimization and what's the requirement for a certain platform. And if you want to create something in Paint and share it on Facebook or show it on a mobile, it has to be reduced so that it actually runs. That's where we come in. And there's a lot of other things. But the point here is Microsoft takes a game technology and then makes that available for the whole world. So there's got to be more examples around the world where game technologies are affecting the world as a general. So the question is, what can we attribute to game developers? What can we give game developers credit for? And I'm going to start at the most given one. Game developers are forcers of new technology. And the GPU is probably the best example here. GPUs today are beasts. They're not as good individually like each processing unit there as a processor, but they can calculate so much at any given moment. Anyone that has kids will tell you, or probably for you as well, the main reason you're upgrading your computer is because there is this new game that doesn't work on your computer. You have to buy a new GPU or new graphics card or just new stuff. And so the games industry is basically financing research and development in the GPU segment by just forcing people to upgrade all the time by pushing the technology. And this is what the games industry has been doing for the last 20 years or so. I would say that the FPS genre is the #1 pusher of technology. This is Castle of Wolfenstein, around 92. It's not a 3D game. It's actually 2.5D. They're cheating a bit in that. There were some other examples, but I think this was like the first real big one. This is Quake. This is one of the first FPSs in full 3D. Now, this is done in software rendering, so you can see that it's quite edgy. Quake 2, somewhere around 97, I think, had hardware accelerated 3D. So basically now it's starting to use the power of the GPUs. The common denominator between all these three games is John Carmack. ID Software, and I mean, you all heard of him, but he's one of the pioneers and one of the people that have pushed the technology forward so that we are where we are today. And all the major manufacturers of GPUs, or well, basically any hardware that is associated gaming, are out with game developers all the time, learning how can we make it better, how can we make it better, and this has driven the development. Today, GPUs are used in cancer treatment to calculate each individual particle when you're going, to see how that will affect the tumor, because it just can calculate so much things at the same time. Autonomous vehicles, highly dependent on GPUs. I mean, you all know that NVIDIA's stock prices just skyrocketed like crazy over the last year. Autonomous vehicles. Machine learning. For the back end of autonomous vehicles, they need machine learning, but also a lot of other applications because it's just so much data that needs to be calculated at any given moment. Game devs are pipeline builders. We are experts at creating pipelines that puts content into a complex environment. If you'll ask an experienced studio what is their most valuable commodity, many would say, well, it's how we do things. It's how we're able to get that much stuff done that fast, how we can iterate. And all that is around your pipeline, how you get stuff in. Like a AAA game today can consist of tens of thousands of assets, and these needs to come in and work together in a very tough environment, and it needs to be done fast. This is not true outside of games. Outside of games, many companies still looks at their 3D object. This is like, how do we get this to internet? That's their question. How do we get it out even to render? This is a little bit of an exaggeration, but compared to games, that's basically where they are. And if you look at, for example, product configuration on the web, let's say that you're selling shoes. So you have your physical shoe that you want to sell. You have a lot of different configuration. Just taking the pictures of that shoe and putting it on the web will cost you tens of thousands of dollars for one shoe. You can see how 3D makes it a lot more interesting. But in order to do that, you have to set up pipelines, because you can't take one shoe at a time. You have to be smart about it. Something that game devs knows by heart. This is a trivial problem for a game dev. Car sales. There's a lot of studies going on right now, and actually the car industry is looking very interested right now in what's going on the web, VR, and everything. They did a study for 9 months in 120 car dealerships to see if we can offer the person the option to see and configure his car, all the add-ons online in a configurator before he buys it, what's the effect of that? And then they matched that to people that were not exposed to this possibility. And what they saw that the average dealership generated $400 to $600 more per customer, or actually $400 to $600 per customer, as opposed to 80 to 120. So 500% increase by just giving them the option to see the configuration and having choices. The method they use is show everything on and let people take away, which is hard when you're buying something that big. We're captors of attention. We are great at figuring out how to get people attached or sucked into our game. I'd say that this is probably the master of that. And a lot of this knowledge is actually derived from this industry. How do we capture attention? How do we get people to continue playing? But it's something we've been great at all times. And I say that this is our biggest power, the gamification of things. And I see that as underutilized everywhere. I played this game when I was, I think it was 12, 13. This was the only game we had in the computer lab at my school. It's a Swedish game, so it's called Cheops Pyramid. Basically, you were solving mathematical problems to get to the next room. Well, that was the only game that was there, so naturally I played that through. But in the process, I was learning math, just going through this. And this is something we should be able to do a lot with. How do we teach kids, use gamification to teach our kids? And I know this is talk of the town, but to be honest, like schools looks exactly the same that they did when I was young. I have two kids, a 14-year-old, a 10-year-old. When they're coming home from school, let's say they have the history book, they're putting that on the bed. Next to the history book, there's an iPad. Which one is going to get most attention after? Yeah? I think we have an obligation and responsibility to take our knowledge to the kids and teach the kids. But we also need to make games because it has to be fun as well. Oh, yeah, actually, I spoke too early here. But there are examples of this happening, so let me show you this video.
The idea of creating something is one of the most basic human desires. Learning can be done best when you don't think that you're learning, you just think that you're enjoying yourself, you're making something. And for students, Minecraft is super fun.
Minecraft has been used in classrooms for years to help students learn more about math, history, humanities, physics. When students are using Minecraft, they solve problems together, and when it doesn't work, they try again until they make it work.
Minecraft itself is a form of self-expression for millions around the world. Now, coding gives them a different tool for self-expression.
It's really cool because I can use something that I like playing at home, which is Minecraft, and then incorporate it with things that I'm learning at school.
Code Builder is a natural extension of the game that students already know and love, and a welcome into the world of programming. With Code Builder, you can actually program in Minecraft.
It allows for the students to still think about algorithms and how to solve problems, and to demonstrate it with this agent.
The student has their own digital assistant who builds things. I can build a wall by making a for loop, and then that wall is going to show up in the game.
The fun element is often watching what somebody has done that you never thought of. I haven't seen him dance. You got to show me those moves.
I'm trying to figure out how Mike can do the Macarena.
Code Builder offers educators an easy-to-use setup for their classrooms, which will get students up and running on the game within a few minutes.
Students are creative by nature. They definitely love Minecraft. If they can have the combination of creating their own rules within the game and then also learning to code at the same time, it makes their entire school experience more fun and something that they want to go to.
You can go as far as you want with the tools that we provide in Code Builder, just like you can go as far as you want into exploring the world of Minecraft.
Yeah, so this is one example of how games can be used to educate kids. And I bet you there's a million more. I find it quite interesting that, for example, Civilization, I mean, if you take a new player to Civilization and drop them into the middle of a game and ask them, yeah, continue playing, most of these players will be like, what do I do here? It's like 1,000 million things on the screen. This is too complex. I'll go out. But the Civilization game is able to teach these extremely complex mechanics to player and make it fun. And you understand what's going to happen in the game to some degree. There's still some stuff I have no clue what's going on. But the point is, we are experts at teaching and building layers to layers and making people understand complex things. I heard my kids a couple of months ago, it's like, yeah, I got a 100-day streak with one of my friends in Snapchat. They've incorporated this in product design, like get the person to just hooked by doing these achievements, super simple thing. But still, imagine if you take complex application, like, for example, Microsoft Word, and you add stuff to the user as you explore it, and that way you teach it and give achievements and stuff like that that hooks anyone. It's a good way of teaching people how to understand your product. So any product you're doing might be in need of this. Fitness is like, I've tried a lot of fitness games just to see what they are. And I think they're not games. They're like, you're very aware that you're training. A really good fitness game should be like, I have no clue that I was out running for an hour because it was so much fun and the game mechanics was running. I think that area, and especially to kids, I'm trying to kick my son out, like go out, move 10 steps at least outside and then back in. If we can get kids to move and do stuff, it's awesome. So, game devs are also creators of worlds. But actually, VR, and this is what's going on right now, it's definitely not coming from the games industry. It's been around for a very long time. For example, in 1952, there was a device called Sensorama, or 62. And this device was basically showing you short movies, and they had different things that triggered your senses. This is also a VR device. I guess many here recognize this one. I had one. But the real first attempts on commercializing or making VR viable was done by the games industry. You had Nintendo doing Virtual Boy in '96, and Sega did a VR set in '93. Both failed miserably with a very limited set of games shipped to it, just too early. Today, this segment is driven by games. We all know this, but I just want to reinforce that. We have Valve, we have Oculus, and guess who's there? Yes, Carmack again. Sony PlayStation, Starbreeze is doing one device as well. We have Microsoft, we're doing a lot of devices. Actually, it's spawning from games as well. So the HoloLens was inspired by the technology built for the Kinect. And the Kinect was built by game developers within Microsoft for gamers. So a lot of that technology, even though it might not be used that much in game today, is inspiring these new technologies that's coming out of us. But I don't think games are likely to push the adoption, or at least the consumer adoption of VR. I think the hype is way too big for that. We're not going to be able to meet that. I think the most likely place where games will be played in VR is arcades. Like amusement parks, indoors, where you can drive a F1 car on Monza, you can climb a mountain in some cool simulator. There's so much stuff you can do there, but you can't just have that at home. The thing is, most people don't have room for a VR device at home. I had a house and I had a VR device, a Vive. I gave it to my kids, said like, okay, play around with it. My son, he rearranged his room so the bed was in front of the door in order to be able to fit the area where you could have the VR device. They played for a week. Then it took like another month before I said you have to rearrange your room because the VR device is just lying in the middle of the floor and you're climbing over the bed to get into your room. This is not viable. I know that Sony PlayStation has less limitations, but I think the main application within games is arcades and experiences. In China, I think HTC, the last number I heard, is have installed about 100,000 venues in shopping malls and stuff like that, where people can go and have a VR experience. But enterprises loves it. Another study that they asked consumers, like, what's your likelihood to go into a car dealership if you can test your car in VR or see your car in VR? And I think the number was like 80% more chance that you're going there. So it's going to be a race, and the car sales dealerships are going to look significantly different over the coming 10 years. It's going to be perhaps a few cars. It's going to be more like Tesla rooms, where you have one car, but then you can try your car, and they have a wide range of options and possibilities, and you can experience that. Yeah, and then I'll skip this one. I have a video here. This is the HoloLens.
Stair lifts, but staircases are all unique, and that makes it very hard to find one stair lift which fits all. Each and every stair lift needs to be customized to make a perfect fit. A chairlift allows our customers to access all floors of their home and be mobile in their own environment.
Selling, manufacturing, and then installation, it all takes quite a while. People need a quick solution. With HoloLens, we started saying, let's look how we can measure stairs differently so it's quicker.
Microsoft HoloLens is a fully self-contained wearable holographic computer. It enables you to interact with your digital content and projects high-definition 3D holograms into the world all around you.
Once we got the hand on the HoloLens, it was an eye-opener for us.
You just put the HoloLens on, and then you scan the staircase, and then start to measure every step. HoloLens guides you through the process.
But that was just the very beginning. We realized that the HoloLens is not just another methodology of measuring a staircase, but is actually performing digital data capturing to the cloud
with the Azure cloud, we are actually able to transport all the data gathered by the HoloLens to our customer database and our accounting systems in real time and forward it to the manufacturing site where you start production. That is a completely new use. Delivering a product with HoloLens, we could become up to 4 times faster.
We can show the animation like, hey, this is your personal stairlift. With the HoloLens, we can provide that solution faster, and it will actually make the customer's life better. We're getting more and more connected with each other, right? And the HoloLens will play a major role in this connectivity.
There's plenty of potential, and whomever we discuss this with comes up with a new idea, and that's what's so great about it.
With this partnership with Microsoft, ThyssenKrupp will transform homes to make life better. That is a game changer.
So I want to start the AR segment with this. Well, AR is around, of course, you all know that. Now we got AR Kit, we got AR Core, and Pokemon Go showed that there's a big demand for this. I would proudly like to say that I feel like I've known that this is coming out. I'll show you why. That this is going to happen, and these kind of games is going to be the next big thing in games. It already is, but it's going to explode. The thing is that AR is closer around the corner than we think. If we go back like to smartphones, the iPhone 1 that was out there, games didn't really take off on iPhone 1. I'd say like just empirically that iPhone 3, that's where it started to happen. And we're perhaps not at iPhone 1 yet, but we're getting closer to that. And the adaptation of AR, or mixed reality, will not be driven by games. It will be driven by things that makes your life easier. Like I always use the analogy, I hate when I'm cooking food and I have the phone with the recipe next to me and it always locks the screen and I'm like fiddling with that and you get stuff on your fingers. And what if you had some glasses that just had the floating recipe? I'd almost buy that for just that thing. But there's going to be things like I'm redecorating my house, like how would this sofa look there? How would this wallpaper look on that wall? Things like that will make our life a lot better, and then games will be there straight away. Because in mixed reality, we can do awesome things. We can push this technology forward to new heights and to things that we couldn't even imagine today. Like, what if this is your path to work? I guess you've seen this video, the Super Mario in Central Park. But it's like, I'm going to work. It's going to be pretty funny, though, to see guys jumping and dodging on the wave with just some glasses on. But social behaviors changes. It feels silly for us to say that now, but yesterday I was seeing the ballet at Hermitage, the Swan Lake. And there was a few people sitting next to me, and they were filming and then watching the movie while having the ballet in front of them. I actually got a bit upset on that, but it seems to be the social norm. And I'm saying like AR will change our social norms as well. And the question is in which direction? And this is where we can be here to guide it. Because games will probably be the thing that drives this. First, usefulness, then games. And I see this as an opportunity for us to redeem ourselves a little bit, to then take this, make our kids explore, create, and do stuff out in the world. So the reason I've predicted the AR games for a while is this little silly game. It's called Turf. It's two Swedish guys doing this as a hobby project. One is actually a fighter pilot. The other one is a computer consultant. This is the map of Sweden at some given moment. You see where players are out, roughly 10,000 players every round. I like these guys. That's where I plug them here. I even gave them an extra plug, asked them, put a zone outside of this conference. This is me taking that zone. If somebody takes that zone from me and comes to me, I'll give them a beer. First 10 people, something like that. Just for fun. So this is an augmented reality game that's been around for roughly 10 years. And for me, that game showed that I played it 4 years now. I go out and bike. I get out. I get out and explore. I like there's this zone out in a marsh in the woods. I go there and there's like mosquitoes and everything. I'm like, I'm going out and taking this one. And that showed the power what games can do. This is not a game that's appealing to the masses, but to me it just showed how powerful this thing is and what we can do to change the world. So the reason I came here is that I have the hope that I, in this room, have sown a few seeds, thinking about what can we do to educate our kids? What can we do to make our kids go out, create, explore the world? And perhaps one of you guys here, or girls, are sitting with that idea and doing it. And I see that there's a huge opportunity in this area right now, because game devs have so much knowledge, but right now it feels like we're going in a direction that's not making our world that much better, but we could. And I think that we together have the opportunity to do this, and we have the power. And I know that the games industry is very socially aware of what's going on everywhere. So I just want to sow that seed. I'm not in any way saying like it's easy, but think about it. Finally, this is us. This is Simply Gone Studios. We're based out of Linköping. We're hiring over there, so if somebody's interested, we can always go and look for what we have out right now. Thank you.
Yes, please, we have a question.
Your speech. Your speech was very optimistic, let's say, but there are a huge number of books and movies and other stuff not so optimistic, like all this cyberpunk, high-tech, low-life stuff, or this Matrix trilogy, all this. So do you see any threats, any dangers and hidden risks in all this penetration of reality by virtuality that we should be aware of and try to avoid? Thank you.
Yes. Watch Black Mirror. I think everything in there is in high. There's a high risk that we go in that. Of course. Unfortunately, we tend to want to go the most dangerous path always as humans. I say Black Mirror. That's enough for me.
And we have another question.
Thank you. There is opinion in media and the press that the virtual reality is the temporary stuff and the real future on the mixed reality. What can you say about it?
I fully agree. I think that the virtual reality platform, that the ones that we're creating right now, is a step. As I said, people won't have them at home, and until everyone is willing to buy one, you won't have mass adoption. I think mixed reality is where it's going to happen. And I mean, but by doing VR games or VR experiences, you are gaining experience that will be useful in mixed reality as well. So I don't think there's going to be games that makes billions and billions on VR, but you're gaining knowledge and you're ready for when this takes off, which might be 10 years away, might be 8, I don't know.
And I see our next question here, please.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot for your inspiring speech. I wanted to ask you about how can we, when we add gamification to our education, how can we compete with the games which are created to be fun, created with simplification mechanics, which won't be in our educational games. They are created using, I'd say, lower instincts of people.
Yeah. Yes, that is a tricky one. I mean, if you compete with, casino games are always going to win. Like the slots, they're just designed like slots in Vegas. They're super fast feedback loops. So the competition will be there, but I think that there's a lot of things that can be done with games that will make it more fun. I don't think like replacing the books is the idea, but providing kids with some tools that are more interesting and more fun is at least something we should explore. And if I had the solution, I would probably be working on it rather than, but I think in this room probably we have enough ideas to get started.
And our next question from the first row.
I'm asking on Russia.
So my primary activity is VR, and for the most part I've been learning your Kinect 1 and 2 from Microsoft, and I have two questions. You are talking about mixed reality and augmented reality as well as virtual reality. So any kinds of reality actually. So the question is, I've noticed that if children get this reality, this virtual reality, they can lose a link with the real world and cannot understand this link between real and virtual worlds. Do you think, is there any way to prevent this so that children could tell real from virtual? Because I think that consequences of this loss can be huge.
Great question. Super tricky one.
You have earned 2 stickers.
I think this is something that needs to be discussed in a longer discussion. But what I'll say is, yes, there's many dangers in this. I find there's dangers in any way, anything that connects people and puts them in another alternate reality, even like Facebook has dangers. So, to be honest, I'm pretty sure that we'll go down the route and discover things that was not very good. But there's so much opportunities in this path that I say that we can't let the fear of the bad prevent us from exploring the good. We just have to be nimble and do good things. Don't do evil things, the ones that are exploring this. I don't have a good answer to this one. It's a good question. Thank you.
Do we have more questions?
Да, здравствуйте. У меня тоже вопрос такой, когда...
Hi, I also have a question. It's like an add-on question. So let's say kids are learning through a game, but then they come home and they're playing a different game. So are they going to be able to tell those games apart? If in a game they tell, they're telling there's a person with strange teeth and fangs in the mouth and you got to kill that person, are they going to kill someone at home? Or like one of the research suggested in Great Britain, 12% of the respondees believe the War for the Ring actually took place from Lord of the Rings.
People that believes that the earth is flat. So I think we cannot change that. But I mean, when I was 10 years old, my mom prohibited me from playing role-playing games because there had been a group of kids that went to a cave and committed suicide. We're always afraid. I actually played role-playing games and I haven't committed suicide yet. So the fear of what could happen here. I believe our kids are pretty smart, and if we give them tools to like educate, they'll separate what's valuable knowledge and what's for fun. I mean, in the end, of course, parents play an extremely important role in this. I forgot to say that in the speech, but it's not like, okay, let's fix this outside. Parents needs to guide the kids through this. But if we as game devs can give our kids tools that are fun, then parents get a little bit easier job. I'm not sure it answers your question, but that's my take on it.
I still have a lot of stickers. And we have a question here.
Yep.
Did you agree that the education games are not going to compete with entertainment games? So is there any point if, let's say, let's put aside like the little ones who like learn and play, but let's take, high school and serious complex topics. Is there any point to simplify the education process if there's not going to be this big competition between the educational games and entertainment games? In other words, in the process of a game, complex issues, you are never able to explain those truly complex things.
Yes, I don't think that universities should build like games to teach college students stuff. I think this goes more down to like the early years when kids are going from like 7 to 15, where a lot of people are struggling in school. They haven't found their interest. When you're in college, you actually made a choice. You want to become better. Well, then you have to work for it. But I think we can give people knowledge earlier, and the fight, okay, this is like super philosophical. The knowledge today has become less and less valuable. Knowledge have been equated with opinions. Like, I have an opinion, people agree with me, now it's a fact. The only way we can battle this is by giving people early access to knowledge and giving them the tools to actually take that in. And I think this is where games come in. Like, when you're forming from 7 to 15, if you play games that are fun and actually teach you something, we're building knowledge and teaching history, teaching things that are hard to teach to someone that perhaps struggles to open a book and always ends up at the iPad playing some game or at the PC. It's not a solution, but I think we have to look at that to merge these together.
We haven't had any questions yet from this part of the room. Anybody? From here?
No, you can always ask me later as well. So
Okay, Samuel, thank you very much. It was a great speech.
Thank you.
Hi, we're at 4C with another one of our speakers. Hello, please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Leszek Szczepański. I'm a senior gameplay programmer at Guerrilla Games in Amsterdam.
Great, so tell us, let's talk games. What's your favorite video game?
Neverwinter Nights.
That's an awesome choice. What's the very first game you've ever played?
I don't remember. I mean, I had an original Nintendo, so I played like Contra or Mario. But the first game I actually remember playing well was Doom. I was way too young to play it.
That's some time ago. How did you get into the industry?
Actually, I was a little bit lucky. I was studying at the time, and like in between universities, so to speak. And my sister said, "Hey, there's this company doing games. Would you be interested in applying?" I applied, and I got a job in mobile industry. And for 5 years, I did mobile games until I figured I'm done and started doing console games.
Not bad. But if you had the chance to go back to the time and give yourself one advice, what would it be?
Don't worry about school, just make games.
You hear that? That's what I'd wanted. So tell us, what do you like and hate about the modern industry?
Okay, so my perspective might be a little bit weird because a lot of people complain about the crunch, working conditions, so on and so forth. I've been really lucky where I work right now because the working conditions are really, really good. The only thing I can complain about the AAA industry is that even being like in a senior position, you don't have that much control over what you're building. And you have dreams, you have things you want to build, but you're still like part of the process. If you're like in a 200, 300 person team, you would like to make a bigger impact. On the other hand, we are building amazing things. It's wonderful to work like 5 or 7 years on a project, and after seeing all these prototypes, bugs, failed builds, and so on and so forth, see the thing on YouTube or on the disk and actually playing out more than you had imagined, and much more than you could have built on your own.
Well, speaking of building things on your own, imagine you had full creative financial freedom over your own project. What would it be then?
Oh, I'm a horrible nerd, so I would just create like an isometric role-playing game. So something like Fallout or Baldur's Gate. So something like that. I'm not sure about the setting, maybe something futuristic, but like a really hardcore isometric role-playing game. That would be something I would do on my own.
Speaking of futuristic, where do you see the industry going in the future, like in 10 years' time? Maybe some breakthrough technology?
Oh, I'm not really sure. I mean, we've been talking about the end of PC gaming, end of console game for years now, and it didn't happen. So I think that there will be small revolutions coming on, like new technologies, new ideas, but we will be still sort of standing on the shoulder of giants. So PlayStation will be there, Xbox will be there, Nintendo will be there, and there will be a lot of stuff, and we will continue growing. Consoles will continue growing, PC will continue growing, mobile will continue growing, and new technologies like VR, AR, or God knows what else will also continue growing. That's what I think I get, at least.
Is crossplay going to become a thing, you think?
Sorry?
Is crossplay going to become a thing?
Like between different consoles? Or?
Yes.
I think so. I mean, there's only benefit to that, right? And it already happened before with different games. So I think it will happen, but it's not up to people like me to make it happen.
Well, speaking about tech, we have VR, AR, and lots of amazing stuff. Do you think these new input methods will eventually replace conventional controllers or not?
I definitely don't think they will replace. I think they will be their own thing in their own right. So people were talking about mobile replacing normal games, and that didn't happen. People were talking about mobile replacing even handhelds. And yes, the handheld market is so much smaller, but it's still there. I mean, how many people bought the Switch and walk around with a Switch, right? So I think VR and AR will be just another market. More people are coming into gaming, and they want other ways to play.
Yeah, definitely. We're trying to see into the future here at 4C. And what's your opinion on the conference so far?
It's really nice. It's actually well organized. I'm surprised that organizers can manage all this herd of cats, like speakers and the guests and everyone, so it's going quite well. I haven't seen a lot of talks just yet, but I looked at the talk list. It seems pretty interesting. There's definitely some knowledge which I'll be able to take out of this, and I'm looking forward to that.
Any particular speech you're maybe looking forward to?
To be frank, I'm so freaking out about my own talk that I haven't figured out this specific one I want to see. But I made like a small list. I circled in our brochure, so I'll be looking into what I would really want to see.
If you heard your own talk from the audience, what question would you like to ask yourself?
Whoa, that's a difficult question. I'm not really sure. I'm kind of hoping that I'm giving all the information that I'm supposed to give. So I hope there won't be that many things unclear that will require more questions. I'll be talking a lot about component-based architecture, and maybe that will be useful to elaborate on that, why Gorilla started with component-based architectures, why everybody's doing it pretty much. Maybe something like this.
Well, hopefully you find the needed answers, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Hi, we're here with one of our speakers. Hello, please introduce yourself.
Hello everyone, I'm Alex Babko, Head of Global Special Projects at Wargaming.
So Alex, tell us, what have you got to show us?
Well, today and these days at 4C, like the world's best game designers, game developers are sharing their experience with everyone here at 4C. And Wargaming also introduces our best practices here, and today we show to all the attendees the new augmented reality experience that Wargaming has recently built. So basically we've taken the Sturmtiger from World of Tanks to real life, so that more people around the world can experience it, can interact with it, and that's basically what happens behind our backs. So those guys with HoloLens and with the Google Tango device are seeing the future, because they see the Sturmtiger here in at the conference, but all people around them who don't take the devices, they basically can't see that, but those guys are already seeing future.
Sounds amazing, but how does it work?
Technically, it's a Unity-based application, but available on the Microsoft HoloLens and on Google Tango device. But from the storytelling standpoint, it's part of Wargaming approach towards preserving history, so that we take the model from World of Tanks, which is really unique in real world, so only 2 Sturmtigers left in our world. But with help of augmented reality, we bring it to as many people as possible so that they can explore this masterpiece of engineering.
So basically we can relive history with this device, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely. So this experience is already available at the Tank Museum in Bovington, as well as in the Museum of History of Great Patriotic War in Minsk. And we will bring it even closer to other locations as well.
Pretty cool. Can we see how it works?
Yeah, definitely. So we can now pick up the Microsoft HoloLens and see what's inside, as well as maybe show to the watchers some screenshot from the tablet, where you can also experience the augmented reality.
I'm standing near the Sturmtiger, a tank that has been recreated in augmented reality. It's so near I can almost touch it, except I can't because it isn't there. But I can clearly see it, I can see into every little detail of it, and there's actually a guide telling me about the story, the history of this great vehicle. I hope you can see it on the screens. This is truly amazing technology. This is the future of museums and probably a lot more. This is amazing.